G'day crew, welcome to the Local Footy Podcast, the chance where we find out what's going on in the world of local footy every single week. It is great fun. There's always a heap to talk about, and the team at Premier Data help us out with that every week as well, and we thank them for their love and affection. Really, that's what it is, giving us all the numbers we need when we discuss exactly what's happening, break down who's who in the zoo of local footy. So thank you again to the team at Premier Data. And what we know about local footy is there's lots of great stories all across the nation, because it's not just played in one state or territory, it's played all across the nation, Australian rules. And community sport, as we know, is a big thing. So there's always some fun and games, some shenanigans, some jocularity, some tomfoolery, and some great moments. And thankfully, sometimes they're captured in books like these. It's a ripper. Famous flagged, great local grand finals, and been written by Toby Prime. And we are very fortunate to be able to have a chat to Toby today on the podcast. He's with us. Toby, welcome.
Harf, thanks for having me, mate.
Mate, great to have you with us. Now, you're a journalist, the leader, Sunraysia, and where else? You've been Geelong Advertiser as well. Yep. So you've been doing a lot of journalism through your time. Was it always sport-based, or was it?
Yeah, in a formal working life, Harf, yeah. Always had a passion for local footy from as far back as I can remember, following me two sisters around to netball back in the day, and then always had a passion for news and storytelling. So just as a kid, it made sense to combine those two. And then just a couple of years back, had a random thought one night, to be honest, as to, I was actually in the kitchen at the time, cooking up the kids' dinner, and I thought, why not have a go at cooking up a book? So here we are. We launched it on Monday night and ended up getting 14 chapters in there for most parts of Victoria and Melbourne. So
fantastic. Yeah. And some of the stories in local sport, but local footy in particular, because it's been such a rich tradition in Australia. There's so many great stories. What's your involvement in local footy been like through the journey? Before we get to the book and some of the great stories you've got, what's your involvement been?
Just as a journo, Harf, yeah.
Didn't play?
No, I played, when I was up in Mildura, I played some very mediocre twos games for Imperials.
Yes.
They called me up, my housemate at the time, they were desperately short. So short that they called it, my housemate tapped me on the shoulder. Never owned a pair of boots before.
Right.
So I run around in the twos at Imperials, played a handful of games there, and actually, I loved it more than I thought I would. Pretty skinny kid when I was a kid. Mum never let me play back in the day. So, non-contact sports for me as a kid, but always loved footy. And I guess news and storytelling was my connection to footy. And that's what, as I said, that's what I've always been passionate about. So just followed that.
So do you follow a local team? Do you follow Imperials?
I've got the Queenscliff Cooters.
I did notice that.
Got the Queenscliff Cooters fleecy on half. Yeah. So a mate and I, our kids are the same age, and to be honest, we spend most of our time at the playground at Queenscliff Footy Club.
Yeah, right.
I'd like to watch a bit more footy than I can, but when I can get down to Queenscliff, that's where I go.
So you're in the kitchen.
Yeah,
making dinner for the kids,
that's
and
right.
This idea pops into your head, and you think,
correct.
So where do you start when that happens? Where does it go from there? Where do you start?
So I thought there were some games in the book. There's just a couple in the book that I saw from my time as a journo that I thought would be worthy to include and needed a closer look at and a deep dive. But the majority of the games have come from suggestions by people who I know and respect. So I just started by canvassing views. I would have spoken to 15 people. Just to get their thoughts on what I should include. And I wanted, when I first set out, I wanted variety in the book. It couldn't all be after the siren games or upsets, drought breakers, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of local footy in that it's mostly run by volunteers, and you might call them, some people, semi-professionals or part-timers, but mostly by volunteers. So you get some quirky results from time to time. So that's what I set out. I was kind of lucky enough that people, were kind enough to take a phone call and suggest those games to look at. So probably had a short list of between 30 and 40, and then we were able to cut it down to 14 in the end.
So what was the one that when you were going to put it together and you thought about local grand finals that you'd seen, what was the one that stood out to you?
There was one that I saw, Eastern Footy League Division 2, 2019, between Mitcham and Ringwood.
Right, yep.
It came down to a kick after the siren by Ringwood. He would have been a teenager at the time, potentially, or early 20s. A bloke by the name of Jimmy Parker had a shot from 40 metres out in front. Ringwood trailed by 2 points. He had a shot from 40 metres out directly in front into a slight wind.
Yeah.
Pretty light kid, so it was right on his limit, especially into the wind. And the ball has reached the top of the goal square and it's goal post height and it's going through. He's flushed it. It's probably got a little high in his trajectory, but he was confident off the boot. He's actually celebrating with the crowd, finger in the air.
Oh.
He was adamant that it was going through. And then the vision is on YouTube and online. It literally just falls out of the sky at the top of the goal square and lands in a pack of players on the goal line. So the goal umpire makes his way to the goal post for what is the match-defining call.
Yeah.
And it lands in the pack of players on the goal line. And obviously there's no arc technology at local level. So the goal umpire has to make the decision as to who has won the game.
Not just the game, the grand final.
Or the grand final, correct. Who's won the flag. And the backstory is that Ringwood had been successful. They'd probably been the most dominant team in Division 2 for 3 or 4 years. They'd made grand finals previously, prelims, but hadn't won a flag and promotion. And then, it comes down to this moment where the goal umpire has to make the call, and Ringwood is adamant that it's crossed the line. But the
Of
course they are, exactly. But the goal umpire made the call. The whole ball had not crossed the line. It was that close. Centimetres in it. Ringwood was celebrating. Their coach was celebrating on the sidelines. There's confusion. And it turns out Mitcham had held on to win. So Ringwood people are still convinced that ball crossed the line half.
Yes, I'm sure they are. And I'm sure the Mitcham people are still convinced it was nowhere near it.
Correct. Yep.
Funny game footy.
Exactly.
Wow, that is great drama. So when was that? What year was that?
That was 2019, Division 2. Yeah, I remember covering that at the time. Ringwood was actually they were quite angry at the result. So
I can imagine.
I was talking to someone there a few weeks back, and he was commentating on the game, and he was wearing an Eastern Football League polo, just commentating. He went down to the ground afterwards, and he told me that Ringwood people were calling him a cheat because because he had an Eastern Footy League polo on. He was just a target for Ringwood people to vent their displeasure at the decision and the result.
Yeah, right.
So he had to tell them, I'm just a commentator.
I just work here, guy.
I've got nothing to do with it. But that's just that sort of goes to the heart of the book half in that, there's enormous passion at local level with these clubs and games.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of when we've talked about this all the way through the season about local footy and the impact it has on communities and how much it means to people. And this is when we're talking grand finals, it means everything to that community. So if it doesn't go your way by the barest of margins, there's going to be a response.
And actually, I interviewed the goal umpire for the book. And
oh, wow.
And I'm not sure if he's spoken publicly before about that decision and how it played out, but he's still adamant and convinced he made the right decision. He was urged to get off the ground. Such was the
that's good advice.
Tension at the time.
Yep.
He remained in the rooms with the umpires until everyone had left. Such was the drama.
Oh, gee, that's no good.
He was. He recalls an umpire helping him to his car, just in case something untoward happened.
Well, we don't want that stuff.
Of course. But that's
good advice.
And he recalls driving home. So at this point, he's convinced he's made the right decision. And it's his, the goal umpire's first time sort of by himself reflecting on how it played out.
Yeah.
And he had just a brief moment of, did I actually make the right decision? So you can't imagine what he was thinking in that moment. And then the vision came out that night and he saw a photo. And ever since he's seen the photo, he's adamant he's made the right call. Despite the photo, it is a hair in it.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious me. So that was 2019.
Yeah.
Take me back to the 1990 Ovens and Murray grand final. There's a bit of drama involved there.
Enormous drama.
You found out.
One that's still talked about half, as all these games are, but that one in particular. And as I said, when I was canvassing views at the start of this little project, that game was mentioned by nearly everyone that I spoke to that I had to include. If you're going to do a book on local footy grand finals, you've got to include the bloodbath.
The bloodbath.
What
happened?
Wodonga and Lavington. It was the greatest challenge in writing this book half because people are still very passionate in their views about the events leading up to that game and how it unfolded.
Yep.
There was 68 weeks suspensions handed out at the time to 15 players between 1 and 9 matches, I think.
Wow.
I interviewed Neville Shaw, the younger brother of Tony and Ray. He was the playing assistant of Lavy. And again, I'm not sure how much Nev has spoken even privately before about that game, but he broke down in tears talking about the game and how violent it was and the impact it had on him. He went on to coach Lavington in 1992, I think it was, for a couple of years. And he said it just destroyed the club for 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
They had been a powerhouse, and Wodonga, they'd been the two powerhouses through the 80s.
Yeah.
But that just killed Lavington for a handful of years. They went on to win the 96 flag, but it took until that time for them to recover from that game.
So what led up to it? How come it became so violent?
Yeah, it's how do I say it, Half? There was a lot of passion and emotion leading into that game. So there was an incident between the two clubs at the start of the previous season, 1989.
Yep.
A Wodonga player was suspended for 8 weeks for hitting a Lavington player, young kid at the time. Given 8 weeks, and I guess it festered from there. So it gets to the 1990 grand final, and talking to people involved with the Lavington coach, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but he was quite concerned that there might potentially be a repeat where a younger player from Lavington might be targeted. So that's sort of the context to it. And then there was an incident early in the game. Michael Garvey, who played a handful of games at Carlton in the late 80s, he drove his knees into the back of a Lavington player in a tackle, and a free kick was awarded to that Lavington player, and then all hell broke loose. The Lavington coach, King hit the Wodonga captain.
Oh, wow. The coach?
Yep, Wodonga coach. The Lavington coach.
Bloody hell.
He was talking to people. He was quite animated before the game, and the Wodonga and Lavington played in the reserves grand final, and that was quite spiteful as well. So everyone before the seniors, everyone sort of knew what was going to happen, unfortunately, and it kicked off. Speculation, I was never able to confirm it, Half, but speculation is a Lavington player kicked the ball out of the ground as the fights kicked off. And there's all sorts of, the umpires didn't have an emergency ball on the sidelines at the time, so there's no ball to restart play.
Oh, God.
The vision's on YouTube, and it's gone viral over, the last few years. And as I said, it's still talked about to this day as to how violent that was. Jeff Geesham was the non-playing coach of Wodonga. That year, he coached Wodonga to the 1987 flag as well, and they beat Lavington by a record margin. So there was sort of that rivalry over that period. As I said, they've been the two most successful clubs through the 80s. But yeah, Geesh regards that as, for the adversity in what Wodonga had to overcome that day, as the highlight in his time in footy, including his stint at Richmond as coach.
Wow.
They actually considered forfeiting at half-time Wodonga. That's how violent and brutal the grand final was.
Well, thankfully, there's not too many of those stories.
And that's like hardly uncommon in the day, unfortunately. I was born in 1989, so this is sort of this era's. I don't have any recollections of how violent those grand finals were, but no blood rule back in 1990.
Of course, yeah.
No, clearly no concussion rules. Very different time, different attitudes, and you're right. Fortunately, we don't see those scenes these days. No,
we don't want any of that sort of stuff going on, but that is one of the stories you can read about in the book, Famous Flags, great local grand finals. 1990 was famous for another one too, the Piccolo District Footy League. What happened there? Coincidentally,
on the very same day, Half. So this was another one that when I was getting views, the Bloodbath and the Piccolo and District game came up. Just an hour 45 up the river from each other.
Yeah.
The Piccolo District League, sort of between the border and Shepparton. Way I am Blighty. And the finish of the game was on the Almost Footy Legends a few years later. So, and that's sort of, lived in local folklore ever since. A Waiwai player kicked a torpedo from about 50, 55 out to win the game after the siren. But there was all sorts of conjecture in the minute leading up. He was awarded a free kick for a high contact free kick, and the vision of the finish is on YouTube, and I think it's pretty fair to say that he was taken around the midriff.
Right, okay. Might have thrown the head back?
No, not even that. He was just taken around the chest, right, and the 17-year-old umpire at the time blew his whistle. The Blighty player who laid the tackle, he was off towards goal, and he threw the ball back actually thinking it was a holding the ball free kick. So he's tossed the ball back, not thinking it was high contact.
Yeah.
And the umpires awarded a 50-metre penalty just before the siren went for obviously not returning the ball to the player. So Blighty are celebrating on the half-forward flank, their first flag in 15 years. They're convinced of, not knowing what was about to unfold. They're celebrating. The way player is being taken to his half-forward line and very casually kicks a torpedo from 50 metres out to give Waiai a 1-point win. But the other drama to this game half was that wooden scoreboard, obviously pre-digital era, 1990.
Yeah.
The scoreboard only displayed the goals and the behinds and not the actual score. And it was a very, very confusing scoreline. It was something like 12 goals 3 to 15-18. So without the actual score, it was very confusing for people to do the math.
Do the math, yeah, okay.
Who had actually won or what the actual score was, to the point where the umpire who paid that free kick said to the player who was about to kick the torpedo, you may as well not take this kick, mate, because you can't win. So he thought Blighty had enough lead that the torpedo, regardless if you kicked a goal, wouldn't count.
Yep.
And as I said, the guy came in very casually and kicked the torpedo. Blighty appealed immediately, and that appeal went for about 20 minutes. There was all sorts of confusion, but the league ruled that Waiai would remain the premier.
Yep.
Blighty appealed again, and a second appeal was heard about 10 days later, and it was ruled that Waiai would remain the premier. But yeah, a game that remains in infamy.
Drama. Are there a couple others that stand out for you? Some of those other grand finals? Was it one in the Sunraysia League?
The Sunraysia League, yeah. 2002 between Merbein and Imperials, coached by the late Merv Nagel. Merbein were at the time. Hadn't won a flag in 27 years.
Yep.
And similar, I guess, not too dissimilar to the Waiai Blighty story. I've seen the vision. I'm not exaggerating. The kid has kicked a torpedo from the cricket pitch of City Oval in Mildura.
Wow.
With only a very slight wind. But again, leading up to that, everyone at the ground is convinced they've heard the final siren.
Yep.
Wentworth was leading by 4 points. So it's late in the game. The Wentworth supporters have run onto the ground. Merbein are convinced they've lost because they've all heard this noise. Everyone's convinced to the point where Mark Alvey, who was raised in Mildura and was a Wenty boy.
Great player.
I chatted to Alves for the book, and Alves recalls running onto the ground, sculling a can of Canadian Club with one of the Wentworth boys. Little did they know the premiership celebrations were short-lived. It would have been their first back-to-back flags in club history. They won the 01 flag as well. The league president or secretary jumps on the PA and says, everyone please clear the ground. That was not the final siren. There's still time remaining. So you can't imagine how difficult it was for Wentworth to gather themselves in that time, thinking they've won a premiership with 45 seconds, a minute remaining on the clock. So Merbein, on the opposite hand, probably had realised there was a second chance at winning this flag. And this 19-year-old kid, Indigenous boy from Darwin, who had come down for the year with a group of Darwin guys, took a mark on the half-forward flank, went back, and off 3 steps.
Just launches this torpedo, and it's gone 2/3 of the way up the goalpost. How good are torps?
Mate, he just flushed it.
A good torp, isn't there? There's nothing like it.
And he still recalls. I chatted to him for the book, obviously, and he recalls it clear as day as to how sweet he hit it, and he knew it, and he knew as soon as he hit it that it was going through. He just wanted to send it as long as he could because there wasn't much time left. He just nailed this thing, and it's gone and gone and gone.
Flushed a barrel.
Coincidentally, was wearing the number 27, and he ended a 27-year drought. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice little piece of symmetry.
But people still talk. I was up there on the weekend, and people still remember that story.
So you mentioned before, and that's a good little segue. And Neville Shaw in tears talking to you about it. What did you realise about the impact that these moments have had on the people throughout their lives?
It's a good question, Half, because it became apparent pretty quickly. Like even when I did the first chapter, it became apparent pretty quickly. Clearly, people who win grand finals are going to enjoy retelling the stories. But people such as Neville, I interviewed some Black Saturday survivors for the book. King Lake made the grand final in the year of Black Saturday, which I can't get my head around still, as to how difficult that would have been with clearly the devastation. So for those people in particular who'd endured some sort of hardship with football, whether, it is only a game, but whether it be a difficult loss or something as devastating as Black Saturday, I think for those people it was cleansing to relive those emotions and talk about their experiences and what those games continued to mean to them. I actually felt like a psychologist there at one point, talking to some people.
I reckon that's fair.
The bloke who threw the ball in that Blighty Waiai game, he said, and I don't think he's really spoken much privately about this, but he was sledged by a teammate after the game saying, "You cost us a flag."
Oh.
So that still cuts.
That would.
Like, to come from a teammate.
That would.
He said, like, everyone was supportive, but there was just one teammate, they're at the post-match function at the pub, might have had a few sherbets that night, and and he doesn't hold a grudge against him, but clearly remembers it.
Yeah. Well, it's your world, isn't it? You like, you work, you got your family, but your local sport, and now in this case, local footy, it becomes your world. And when those moments are there and it doesn't go your way, and you're partly, sometimes a little bit fully responsible, depending on who you talk to.
Yep.
Like, it can affect your life. These things affect people's lives.
Well, talking to his teammates, the bloke who threw the ball, they say it impacted his life because he felt he needed to go above and beyond in the following years, whether it be on the social committee, doing every other job around the club, to feel like he had to repay the club for what he felt cost them a premiership. So unfortunately, Sonny Wilson, Grant Sonny Wilson is his name, and he was at the launch on Monday night, and I was just stoked that he was there. He was just a great fella to chat to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you mentioned the launch. Let's go there. Luke Beveridge, the Western Bulldogs coach, was wrote the forward for the book, and he was there at the launch. How'd you get that?
He's well, my wife half would say she's been the biggest supporter of the little project because I've been working on this for a couple of years, most nights after hours and interviews and whatnot. So credit to Ange, I've got to give her a shout out. But Luke,
fair enough too.
Luke's in the silver medal position for the support that he's provided in his words and how generous he's been with his time. So a lot of people are familiar with Luke's story, but Coach St. Bede's Mentone to that three-peat in the VAFA, which that'll never be repeated. But he holds the C-section flag, the 06 premiership, equal in his career highlights to the 2016 flag.
Wow.
That's how much it means to him. And that encapsulates the purpose of the book.
Yeah.
That was an epic game, that C-section flag. I think the scoreline was like 138 to 137. St. Bede's come back from 47 points down midway through the second quarter.
Yeah.
Bevo, as he does, rushed up to the coach's box at Trevor Barker Oval there at Sandy, and Tim Lamb, who's at Melbourne these days, he was the assistant coach at the time, and Bevo sort of made some moves, and they got back within sort of touching distance at half time, and it was just back and forth, epic game. Paul Groves played in that game, the AFL Dogs, AFL Premiership coach, as you would know, half.
Good man.
He holds that as the highlight in his career above the AFLW flag. So him and Bevo and Grovesy are similar sentiments there as to what it means to them.
I noticed you didn't mention the 2015 B grade flag.
I'll get back to you half. If there's a sequel.
Where we came back from 45 points down midway through the second. It's fine. I don't want to talk about it, but
we'll exchange details half. A few people have asked when the second edition is coming out, so we'll be in touch, mate.
Go, second edition before you even get the first one.
No,
that's good.
A little premature, isn't it?
That's good. No, go the second one. What have you learned about local footy in writing this and putting this all together, speaking to the people that make it happen week in, week out around the country? What have you learned about local footy?
Just that it's reinforced how much it means to people, half. Like, clubs and communities are the heart of, local, suburban, regional areas.
Yeah.
So it's just reinforced how important that is, I think, and that's what I set out when I started. A lot is, AFL clearly gets a lot of media coverage and exposure, but grassroots is where it starts.
Yep.
And that, that's my passion, and I hope that's sort of been reflected in the book.
Well, it is. It's going to be an absolute ripper for a lot of people out there. Famous flags. Great local grand finals. Toby Prime's put it together over a couple of years of hard work, sweat and tears, I'm sure, after hours, talking to the people that have made these stories. Something that needed to be documented, and it's there forever now in this book. Where can I get the book? Where can everyone get the book?
Online, half. All good, bad in different bookstores. Mostly good bookstores. But a quick Google search, famous flags, great local grand finals will bring it up. Otherwise, people can reach out to me. I don't know if you're happy for me to we can share my email address if you like. Just my email is tobyprime@live.com. More than happy for people to reach out to me and can arrange postage and purchasing that way. Otherwise, I think, the Pre-orders are still going until the end of the month, but obviously people are more than welcome to pre-order, and then from the end of the month, away we go.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading this, some of the great stories on local footy. It's what we're about here, grassroots footy on the local podcast. So it's great to have you in, mate. I'm really looking forward to reading this and learning about some of the stories, the great grand finals that have gone by, and even more so looking forward to the second edition, which is coming as well. Thanks for coming in.
Good on your half. Thanks, mate.
Toby Prime, it's going to be a ripper. Looking forward to that. Get it where you can get all your good books, and we'll talk more about local footy next time on The Local.